Hi everybody, Carol here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making a wintry card about building a snowman, and it's going to have several layers of cardstock in different colors. The stamp set is called Sweet Seasons from Stamping Up, and you know I'm not a dealer, never have been, but I'm going to stamp this off on white cardstock, onto white cardstock with VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I haven't used this stamp in a long time, so I'm really taking extra precautions to see that it stamps off well, and I'm really mashing hard and trying to hit the inner part of the stamp, and as it turns out it does just fine, but I wasn't sure, and so I'm going to make another impression, and this time I don't have to work quite so hard at it because I know that it's stamped just fine. But I will just keep the extra one in case I need it for another day. And since I have everything out, I might as well stamp two. And then I'm going to do something else. I'm using some pattern paper on this card, and so I decide, and you've probably done this yourself, but I decided I wanted to make his part of the card out of the pattern paper, and so I decided to make his scarf and his hat out of this pattern paper, and I just need a tiny bit. I could have used a bigger sheet, that's for sure, but that little bit of scarf and hat are really quite small, so I'm inking up the right hand side of that card where the boy is, and I'm really trying to line it up and be sure that I'm getting it on the ink pad. And then I thought, well, I can reach it a lot better if I'll just turn that ink pad around. So that's what I did, and I'm going to try to eyeball it as best I can to see that I'm getting that on there. And again, why I didn't use a bigger piece of pattern paper, I don't know, except that I had that little square. I knew it would be enough, but I'm just making it a little more difficult for myself to get that to work out. But it did just fine, and it did catch it all. And so I'm going to bring it up close so maybe you can see that. If you get up close, you can see where that printed off, and that's kind of where the scarf is. And so I'm going to turn it around. I've got that other corner there that can be used, and I'm going to stamp it off again onto that corner and make another one. So as I put it down, I'm studying it again to try to line it up as best I can to have the best success, and mashing it down. It's a little difficult to stamp onto that dark of a piece of paper, but I can see by the design, you can see what printed off, and I do have a piece of scratch paper back there to catch the overprint, but you'll see I'm trying to show and draw here, and if you're up close you can see that I missed a little bit of his cap, so it would be right there. It's just a tiny bit, it's not that big a deal, but what I decided to do was, since I didn't use a stamp positioner, whatever was left of that stamp, or I actually went back and stamped another one, I think, and I'm just cutting out around where that hat would be to give myself a pattern. And I don't really even have to cut out, intricately the rest of the design. I could have just gone straight down. It's the idea of lining it up with what is already on there. And so I'm just lining it up, and I'm going to take a pencil and I'm just going to go back and draw in that little bitty bit, because I've got room for the hat. That's not the problem. So I'm just going to go back and draw a little bitty line with my pencil to show me where to cut out for that hat. And so I'm lining it up, and I'm off because I realize that the little ball hanging at the end of his hat is actually located below his scarf. And I go back and look at the stamp, even though I have a printed impression right off to the left that I could have looked at, but that was too easy. So anyway, so I see where it lines up now. You can kind of line up where the jacket is, And so it's just a tiny bit there, but I'm going to draw in the rest of the cap so that when I cut it out, I can actually find it. And then I thought I really can see it better if I use this white pencil. So I'll go back over it with the white pencil. And I will take the scissors to it in a minute and see if I can cut that out. It's a little bitty thing, and it's kind of a little bit tedious to cut out something that small. But and I apologize for getting off the screen there. And but that's the first one, and now I'm just going to go ahead and work on the second one and cut out around the scarf and go back and cut off around the cap. One thing that I didn't do was it didn't really dawn on me till after I'd cut it out that the edge of that cap that's up around his face is, at least it gives you the impression it's some kind of white fuzzy fabric, not print. It's separate, so I had covered that up and had to go back after a while and cut out around that so the white border of the cap could show. And I guess the most tedious part is going back and cutting out where his face shines through or shows through. And I should have left myself more paper to work with and to hold on to, because it gets a little close there. I should have cut the face out first, just warning to someone else, and then have that extra paper to hold on to. But it works out just fine, except for having to go back and cut out. And also I think I left the ball on this, the little ball on the bottom of his hat, so I have to go back and cut that off, because to me I wanted that to be a little white ball and a little white trim around the cap around his face. So it's it looks good. It's ready to go, and I will put some glue on that later so that I can glue that down. Now I had to, this was a saying that's credited to Chalmers, but to be honest, when I went back, for some reason a long time ago, I went back to look that up, and there are other people credited with having said that, and maybe a tiny bit of controversy over whether Chalmers really said it, but I think he probably is thought of as being the one who said it. But anyway, that's what the stamp says, so I'm going with it. And I had to cut a little squiggly line around that because the original stamp, and I should have shown you that, and I apologize, had something up the side of it. I think it was a stalk with some leaves or something like that, a stem. And so I wanted to cut around the leaves, so I had to go back and cut the other side of that saying with a squiggly line, and to kind of even it up. And it looks fine. I don't think you would suspect anything, especially with the printed snowflake paper background. Now, as you know, I like to go around with my neutral color there. This is Sahara Sand. It's just the ink, and I go around with it and color up the edges just to kind of frame them. Now, this dark gray, it doesn't show too much, but it was just, if it just shows a tiny bit, it's not that much work. And so there is a dark gray, a lighter gray, medium blue, but that's kind of bright, and then the pattern paper, and then the white paper that the little boy and the snowman are printed on, and the saying, of course. So I'm going around all of them. It just takes a minute, and to me it really adds a nice look. So another thing I do sometimes is just drag it through the ink pad, especially that white piece, because, or the pattern paper, because it has a white background, it has a white edge. So I'd like to drag it through the ink pad and really make those edges dark. And Tombow Mono Multi Liquid Glue that is repositionable. There you can see that pattern paper is white on the back, and so the edges are white also. So that's the reason I like to color that in. I will go around with this glue, set it aside, let it dry. As I've said so many times, it goes on white, but when it dries, it will be clear, and then that means it is repositionable. So when you're working with this many pieces of paper, it's really helpful to have it be repositionable in case you don't get it down straight exactly the way you want it on your card. So I have folded my card, cut it out, scored it, folded it. It's a 6 1/4 by 4 1/2. It's an A6 card, and I'm about to put that down and start gluing. I have come back later. It's dry. I put down the dark gray, then I put down the light gray, and now I'm putting down the blue. And as you'll see, the card is kind of divided on the front. One part the solid color blue cardstock, and the other part the patterned snowflake paper, and with the trim of the gray showing through to show that they are two distinct pieces. And I just think it gives it a distinction, a good look, that there's a lot going on here, but at the same time it all goes together very well. Now here's the little boy building the snowman. Put him down on top of the blue, and try to line it up the best way I can, eyeballing it. And good news is you can pull it off and put it back down. So trying to line him up. I don't care if they're completely symmetrical. I don't mind more space at the top or more space at the bottom, that kind of thing. I think sometimes it adds a little interest. And then here is this saying about everybody wants to have something to do and hope, and I can't see it from here. I'm not I don't have it in my hands, but you can read it more easily than I can. So I've come back with my Prismacolors. I'm going to just do some light coloring, and I'm definitely going to speed it up so that you don't have to watch all of this. But I put some, I used some grays and blue, and just try to make it match the rest of the card in some fashion. They're not the exact same colors, but just try to make them blend together nicely and look good together and complement each other. I made the pants darker than the jacket. Gave the snowman an orange nose, and went back and colored in his scarf with some yellows and then a little bit of oranges to just kind of keep it all together instead of just putting too many colors on there. And I go back later and just put some blue that matches pretty well with everything. The sky is blue and the snow has a blue cast, so it's pretty much all the same color, but I'm just going around the images very faintly just to give a hint of blue for the sky, up in the corners a little bit, around the edges a little bit, and then where the stamp highlights the curves of the snowman, just they help you know where to put color, so I just put a little around that, some around the hill. I think colored the grass in with a little bit of brown, because I figured the grass is basically dead at this point. And then I got my Millennium pens, black ink pens, and went back and darkened his eyes and the snowman's eyes, because you know when you color over them, a lot of times that covers up the black, or you didn't get as good an impression in the first place. Did his teeth and these branches for his arms. Just wanted to highlight them a little bit. And then even some of the snowflakes didn't print off too well. I didn't even realize it at first, but the way I kind of do is just make dots, because it's a little bit difficult to make a straight line sometimes. Now I'm adding the scarf and the hat that were out of the pattern paper that cut out, and that it's been drying, and now you get to see what that looks like. And I like it a lot. I had the white snowball and the white trim on the cap, and it matches the pattern paper on the other side and draws it together. Now I have this gorgeous, at least to me, it's gorgeous silver paper. I guess you could say corrugated, but it's very heavy paper. I think I got it at Michael's. And it has a lot of glimmer and glitter to it. It's actually kind of heavy, kind of thick. It's almost like chunky, and I'm showing that I put it on the card there. And so it's a nice heavyweight paper, and we all know that we can get things at Michael's and Hobby Lobbies with coupons if we have to. And sometimes these specialty papers are a little bit, well, they're just more expensive. They're not that expensive, I guess, but more expensive. And so, but I thought the silver just added a touch. You do not have to have that. I think the card was fine, actually, without it. But it just adds such an icy, wintry look to it that I really liked it. And so I went ahead and added that. Then I thought, well, if I could do that with just about a 1/4 inch border all around, why not make a really big border? This could be a card that you could mail in a manila envelope if you wanted to, but I also don't think it would look bad. It's just framed, and it's also easy to see with those grooves if you're lined up straight or not. That's the reason I changed that. But anyway, like to frame it maybe at a Christmas time, or just during the winter season, just set it out for a little while, because it is the season. And I do think it's very pretty. And that's what it looked like on black. Here's what it looks like on the same blue that's on the card. And I could have made another border with this blue paper, maybe 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And that would have been pretty too. One idea leads to another, doesn't it? So there you go. Well, I am basically through. I'm going to pick this up and try to twist and tilt that paper so that you can see the shine. I don't think it shows up as pretty as it is in person, but hopefully you can pick that up and see it. So it's really nice paper. So anyway, thank you again so much for joining me. I'm going to show you variations: the card plain, the card with a little bit of silver, and a card with a lot of silver on the backgrounds of blue or black. So I hope you'll pick your favorite. Maybe try this. And thank you again so much for joining me. It's been my pleasure. I enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see you again real soon in the next few days. Have a great day. Bye-bye.